I think sometimes we have maybe not a very accurate impression of Jesus and his disciples. That's as if they were always very solemn and pious. But there are often these little hints in the Gospels which we remember were not written as biographies. In a sense, they were hastily written as catechisms, because by that decade, some 3 or 4, or in this case maybe 5 or 6, after Jesus' death and resurrection, the disciples realized they had misunderstood, that Jesus was not returning as soon as they thought, and they needed to preserve what had been an oral tradition up until that time. But some little details do slip in that give us a sense of some of the camaraderie and affection that existed amongst Jesus and his disciples, who obviously spent a great deal of time together. We know that Jesus called James and John sons of thunder, suggesting that maybe they were kind of impulsive, And we know that Jesus took Simon and decided to call him Cephas. So we call that rock, or maybe it was rocky to them. And here we hear in this gospel that little detail that Thomas had a nickname, Didymus, which is, of course, the Greek word for twin. Now, I don't think, and scholars don't think either, that Thomas had a twin brother, because that would be silly. What would you call the other brother? Twin as well? No. But rather, in physical appearance, Thomas resembled Jesus very much. And so they gave him the nickname Twin. But here we have Thomas, and we've given him another nickname, haven't we? Doubting Thomas. And I'm not sure how fair that really is. So, as with the young people today, we'll see who the twins of Thomas really are. And this morning I held up my hand in front of the young people in religious ed and said, I'm going to tell you I have something in my hand. Do you believe me? Well, some said yes and others said no. And I said, well, I'm your priest. Do I lie to you? Okay, so they said, all right. You probably have something in your hand. Then I said, well, I have a religious statue in my hand. Then the doubt crept over the majority, And they wouldn't believe unless they saw that, yes, I did. I have a little statue of my patron saint, St. Edward, in my hand. And that's how we are, We are skeptical by nature. We are questioning by nature, And so don't we have great sympathy for Thomas, who wasn't there on the first day of the week that Jesus appeared in the evening to his disciples, but a week later is there to say, well, it sounds like a story to me. I can't really accept it until I see for myself, So we are often the twins of Thomas himself. He may have resembled Jesus physically, but we often resemble him in our questioning, But then if, as I said to the young people today, well, I'm your priest. I can't lie to you. I have to tell you the truth. Well, let's think too, who was telling us that they saw Jesus alive? Peter, James, and in a special way, John, who is responsible for the passage from the gospel that we heard tonight. Every one of those apostles, except John, we know for certain, would go out to the ends of the earth to tell people that they had seen Jesus crucified alive again. And they would lose their lives saying it. Should we believe them? Of course we could. Their testimony is even much more reliable than mine.